Hey, John here with another Tuesday Blues lesson for you, and today we're going to get into that Delta Blues style piece that you just heard, and it really kind of grew out of Tuesday Blues number 331. It's slow and fairly easy Delta Blues. We really just focused on some lower riffs and single note melodies, and of course we made it bluesy. And by the way, the tab and the interactive tab player is all available for premium members. If you're not a premium member, you can check out how to become a premium member in the description below. But right now we're going to walk through an idea or a collection of ideas really to kind of expand Tuesday Blues 331. It will help if you've gotten the basics down of that main riff, but we're going to take this step by step so you should be able to follow along, and we're just going to add some simple embellishments to kind of take this around the block. And honestly, the idea is to arm you with a few different tricks and ideas so that you can take this sort of, platform that we kind of worked out in this Delta Blues thing and expand it and make it more of your own. And hopefully these ideas will get you going. That's what this one's all about. So let's get started by just listening to that opening riff from the last lesson, Tuesday Blues 331. And then I'm going to give you one simple idea to just kind of add some real cool contrast to it and get a little bit more going in that riff. Here we go. All right, so we've definitely got a really cool thing happening in E, but it's all in the bass. It's all right here. And what I want to do is a really simple trick, but it's going to add a lot of contrast. What we're going to do is add some brush ups with the index finger, just kind of strum up through the top two strings. That's an E and a B in standard tunings. That works really well over E, right? All right, one more time. And we can even add it right out of the gate on the and of one. It works really well in between some of these notes. And notice still nothing fancy happening on the fretboard. I'm really playing this with just one finger and moving it around. So even if you're not quite comfortable with some fretboard skills yet, this could be a really cool way to get into Delta Blues. All right. And then we had that riff that kind of took that and made it a little more intense by doing these repeated bends. All right, and still you can use any finger you want to. I'm doing that just to show you that it's just one note at a time on the fretboard on these lower strings. So the second sort of answer to that might sound like this. So we just repeated that, and instead of doing this, we did this. And just kind of alternated between that bass and these higher strings. One other thing that you could do if you want to get just a little fancier on the fretboard, not much, is you could switch that and bend this G note with the ring finger and then put down the index finger on the D, right? That's coming right out of an E7. That flat 7, that dominant 7. Super bluesy, works really well here. And what if we kind of crank on this, but add these top two strings with that D note? Sounds pretty cool. And then we can go back and finish our riff. So it might sound like this if you're going to add those or that note in there. All right, you can see we added just one little note there that we didn't have before. Before in that first opener, we just were strumming up with the open couple of strings on top, the E and the B. Totally cool, and we could repeat that. But what I wanted to do was get that bluesy D note, that dominant 7 over E in there. Really cool way to add just a little touch of spice to this. All right, and we still repeated those bends, which I think really adds some intensity to this bar. And it's not all that complicated. We're just repeating the same note. And then all we did here, compared to what we've done in Tuesday Blues 331, is just add these two strings. All right. And from there, we could keep going a whole 12 bars just by implementing that one idea. So if you're sitting there and you've learned that and you want to expand this into a tune that's got several choruses happening, several 12-bar repeats, you might choose to play it bare bones the first time around, and then you might choose to add in some of this open string brush up stuff on the second repeat. And then here's an idea for what maybe you can do on the next repeat. This one gets kind of cool. Let's check it out. All right, so this one, we're kind of back to that single note in the bass. We didn't do any brush ups, although you could kind of add some of those in, but I really wanted to make a fuss about this G note here. All right, that's the minor third of E, so this is a really bluesy, tone to target, right along with that D that we were talking about earlier, which is why that part worked really well over E. What we're going to do here, though, is add a whole bunch of intensity. We're going to play this like we mean it by sliding into that note several times. All right, so we start in kind of a tricky spot in the rhythm. We go 1 and 2 trip on the let. We start that slide. Then we do another round of triplets. So we've got 2 triplet, 1 triplet. I don't know why I said 1, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. All right, so there's a lot. We start on the let of 2. So 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. Come back and we're just walking down that scale from E down to the D. And then what we do is a nice little riff to get us out of that. Just a really cool way to kind of connect and get out of this business right here with that open D. Kind of moving down, moving us into A. We're back to that single note stuff, but feel free to add some of those brush ups at any point in here if it feels good to you. All right, and that's what we're looking for to move us from E into A. All right, so as we move into A, let's change things up a little bit. Let's go back to that sort of adding some of the higher strings, and that to me works really well. It kind of helps the piece breathe, and it gives it some interest, right? I mean, playing this dark is cool, right? But we need those top strings to kind of round out the sound. And we got all these fingers here. Let's put them to work. And what we're going to do here over A, once we get here, I want you to move into an A7 chord, right? So that's barring strings, 4, 3, and 2 at the 2nd fret, and then let's get that G. That's the dominant 7 of A. Remember here it was D, dominant 7 of E. It sounded really cool, nice and bluesy. We're going to use that sound here, but over A. And I kind of scrunch my fingers up for some reason and play the A7 like this. You might see me play it in different grips, but however you do it, this, get that flat 7 in there, get that G in there. And then what we want to do is just kind of strum through that, all right? So let's check out what the A might sound like if we just let this breathe with some chords. All right, and then what I did there is I let that last strum kind of hang, and then I stumbled into with the open E and then the open A, because we got 2 bars of A here. So we're now in bar 6 of this, and I want to shift this. I want to get kind of out of this A7, but we still need to play A. So I'm going to play this, one of my favorite chord shapes to play in A. This is an A7. So we've got our G there, that's the G. From here we just moved it down an octave. There's the C sharp, that's the major third of our A7 chord. There's the E, the 5th, and when you play strings 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 there, you got a really nice A7 chord. These tones sound super cool to me. You can hear this chord shape in tunes like Kind-Hearted Woman Blues by Robert Johnson. And in fact, we're gonna steal some stuff from him right now. We're gonna take this chord shape and just kind of stay in that mood, stay in that feeling, and do some strums. And then flatten it down. Super cool move, and then come back up. All right, so we've gotten all the way up to bar 6. We're halfway there. We're going back to E. But this time around, when we go to E, I don't want to do what we've already done before. Again, this is about giving you options and, kind of plug and play with this stuff and loop this thing around and try different ideas. That's the idea, to get you going with your own blues composition that's, maybe based on this platform. All right. And what I want to do when we go back to E this time is play something that's a little more of a lick, right? We're going to play a lick that kind of connects us from E. We've only got 2 bars of E here, and we're moving into the all-important 5 chord, the B7, right here. So what I want to do over E is this. All right, and when we hit that D sharp, that's our B7 chord about to happen, but we don't want to go too far here. Let's take a look at that lick. We're starting out open strings, open 6, open 1st, and then we come up here, and guess what note that is? That is a G. We've been talking about how we made a fuss about that G already. Here it is, just in a higher octave, so we're going to lead off with that. And then there's that bluesy dominant 7, the D. Right? Even if you don't want to know any of the functions behind this, it sounds good, right? All right, and that's probably the most difficult part of what we're doing in this entire example. I'm sliding back down from the B to the A on the 3rd string. It's very quick. And then when I get there, I'm pulling off to the open G note and then down on E. All right, and then we're going to get the rest of our fingers in place to play E7. So I'm going to the G sharp and I'm going to the D on the 1st string, right? I've got my E there, so these fingers fall in place. And that's really all we need to do. We don't need to do anything with the ring finger unless you play this differently. Totally cool. But I've just got it hanging in the air there. And what we're gonna do is pump the bass. So that's 1 and, 2 triplet, 3 and, 4 triplet. That was on the 4th string. And that gets us up to the B7. All right, well, let's hear that E thing now that we know where the notes are. All right, and again, that starts us off on our B7 bar. I just want you to hear where we're going. That's really important, the way these things connect together. And what we're gonna do here is, all right, so some more of that brush up, that strumming stuff. And then a tiny little lick there where we pluck the 1st string and then bend up on that D note, right? Down to B. Really cool. That D is the minor 3rd of B, so that sounds really cool when we're over this B7 chord. Then back to A. We're gonna do some chording here. We're going back to this, my favorite A7 shape, really. All right, we're just gonna do some strums there. And then we're actually ready for the turnaround. And you could do a ton of different things here, from almost ignoring it and just jamming an E for a couple of bars, to the classic turnaround, which is what we're gonna utilize here. We're just going to open 6, open 1st, and then this shape here, where the B and the D, move it down again, right? This hopefully sounds familiar to you. That's the idea, but once we get, instead of resolving here, we're at the top of the final bar and we're gonna do something kind of special there. All right, so right there, when we get to the 1, beat 1 of bar 12, what I wanna do is a little lick. Right? So we're gonna slide up and then kind of come back down like we did before. That little move. It's something that I do all the time and I hear all the time in blues. We're kind of making it stand out by sliding into that B first. All right, then we're gonna do that little move where we just walk down into really what amounts to two very important tones from the B7. All right, that's going to be the major third of the B7 and the flat 7 of the B7. So it gives it that B7 vibe, which is 2 fingers. Check it out. Then we can strum out and then come into an E major for a real nice result, because these 2 tones, watch this, just reverse themselves, right? One goes up a half step, and this one goes down a half step. Super cool move. All right, so let's hear that as we move from A into the final 2 bars. Keep in mind, we're gonna do that cool move in E and then get us into that little B7 for just a moment at bar 12's end, and then resolve. All right, now let's hear this thing put back together into one package, but remember that you can stretch this out just by focusing on one of these key ideas for 12 bars. It's a great way to practice, it's a great way to get better, it's a great way to kind of learn these moves. So remember that you can add in some of these upstrokes, you can make more of a chordal sound happen like we did in A, you can even throw a few licks in there here and there, and don't forget that every now and then just make a big fuss about a single note. And this will help to kind of create a lot of different options for you in a Delta Blues playthrough like this. So let's give this complete package, this 12-bar package with all these options kind of thrown in there, a listen so you can hear how it comes together. And don't forget, if you're a premium member, you've got access to the tab and the interactive tab player to help you get this thing down. And if you're not a premium member, you can check out how to become one. There's a link in the description. But now let's hear this thing put back together. All right, I hope you've enjoyed that. Be sure to come back next Tuesday. I've got another lesson coming out. Got them coming out every single Tuesday. So make sure you're subscribed and ring that bell for notifications to make sure you don't miss one of these. And I'll see you in the next video. Until then, practice smart and play on.